From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, February 19th. I appreciate your patience last week with not having the video. I'm a huge Eagles fan, had a tough loss there, and I was too busy with all that stuff going on. And we really didn't have anything going on in the weather anyway. It was mild, and it continued to be mild for much of the past 2 weeks. No changes in snow, no real worries as far as the long range was concerned. But we are starting to see some changes that will affect late this month and March, with predominantly cooler than average temperatures coming back into play. We do have another warm week, though, however, before that, with a southeast ridge flexing, as you can see from our long range here on Friday, that has these temperatures slightly above average. That's going to culminate on Thursday with temperatures in the 60s. So, 50s all week, and then into the 60s here for a single day on Thursday before that comes down to slightly below average levels here for about 4 or 5 days, from about the 25th to the 2nd of March is what we have for that slightly below average period. The southeast ridge is going to try or make an attempt to come back a little bit, but it'll be met halfway, and with the cold air trying to push south at the same time, so it's not going to be as effective the second time in the first week, the rest of the first week of March. But after that, I think we're predominantly slightly below average. So we're going to go through the temperatures more so than the snowfall. There are opportunities for snowfall that we listed here, and they're still there. As I'm looking this morning, I'll show you those too. But there are some, next Saturday is one of them with rain or snow showers, and then a winter storm signal that we have for the 28th to the March 1st period. That is still there as well. So we could get snow out of this pattern if you're going to be colder. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that out. I know the average temperatures are continuing to climb out of climatological minimums that we achieved in the middle of January, but we're still continuing to go up. And we're now solidly in the 40s across the region as far as average highs are concerned. So slightly below average is relative to time of year. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bitterly cold, highs in the 20s and snow and wind and all that stuff. Okay, so it is going to be slightly below average. If it's 35, 36 degrees when it's supposed to be 42, that's slightly below average, okay? So that could mean that, all right? So look, here's the average snowfall, what we're expecting in the months of February and March. Obviously, you're not going to achieve these totals here, so we're going to be well below what we should be for the month of February, which is our snowiest month of the year. And we do have a near average listed in March as our projection that we've maintained for several weeks now. And this is lower than February, but it's still a decent amount in some areas of what you can see as far as snowfall in the month of March. And that is possible that we've achieved these totals here. We're going to keep it near average for now because the snow is the most uncertain part of that. We have to figure out the pattern first, and the pattern's looking like it's going to be turning colder on just about everything you look at, and I'll show you the reasons why it's going to do that. Unfortunately, it does look like, and it continues to be my opinion, that this spring is going to start off colder than average again, which has been it's been par for the course for the last couple of years. We've had some colder springs, La Nina effects, that kind of thing. Now we are transitioning to ENSO neutral. Maybe that helps a little bit, but there are some things that might keep this lingering at least into early April. Okay, so unfortunately, if you were looking for, can we plant early? Can we start spring early? No, it's not going to start early this year, unfortunately. Okay, it is still officially winter all the way up through March 20th. I think it's like 5:30 something on March 20th is when spring arrives, but it's not going to feel like spring, we don't think, at that time. Here's what we're dealing with right now, and this is this upcoming week. So we have a big southeast ridge influence, and that is right here, clearly seen. So you get all this warmth that's pushing up here, and that's why that's been a common theme over the past basically 6 weeks since January. We've had a big southeast ridge influence that's kept us milder. Prior to that, it was more the Pacific that was doing it, but now we have the jet streams kind of going like this, up and over the top like that. So all your cold's been in the western United States. This is a typical La Nina pattern. So we're not out of the La Nina background state, even though we are transitioning right now into ENSO neutral. or very, very close to it. But what goes up must come down, and vice versa. So you have a ridge here on the eastern side of the country, east of the Mississippi, and this has been a predominant pattern for a while. Now, what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks is a transition, because this the colder air that is off to our north here is going to start pressing on this ridge a little bit and forcing it further south. It's going to be a gradual process over the next 2 weeks, and when that boundary is further south of our region, at times it's going to fight. They're going to go back and forth. When it's down south of our region, at times you're going to have some colder shots, and maybe any chances of snow will come into play. We'll be riding this boundary here, kind of like a gradient overrunning pattern like this, something like that. And wherever that boundary sets up is going to dictate whether you get snow or rain out of this situation. Now, this week, it's easy. It's just rain, okay? And that's all the way through the end of the work week. But once we get to the weekend, there's an opportunity for some snow. And here's putting that into motion just so you can see what that looks like going forward. You see the southeast ridge get squashed. It tries to make a comeback here, and it does a little bit, and then it gets squashed again, okay? And it's going to keep trying to build in here. Here's your near average period that's in early March, but then it continues to build in after that. So it's kind of like a step-down process where you have the cold trying to win. It's going to eventually win out, it looks like, and the southeast ridge is going to kind of continue to fight, but then it's going to run into resistance each time, more and more effectively each time, and push it down further to the south is what we're thinking. So here's what we're looking at the next 2 weeks of temperature trends using Lehigh Valley International Airport, since it's our centermost point of our coverage area. And you can see this red line indicates what average is. Right now, it's 43 degrees for a high. On March 5th, it's 47. But you can see we're above average this week, and then you get hints of it here and there, and then you dip this predominantly slightly below average. So you're kind of like upper 30s, low 40s, which for that time of year would be below average. So if you get something in here, I mean, it's going to have to be, timing's going to have to start coming into play a little bit more, maybe arriving at night or arriving earlier in the morning when it's colder, that kind of thing, in order to get snow. Otherwise, you get a bunch of slop stuff or something, maybe starting off as snow, going over to rain. But, anything that accumulates would still count toward the total. I mean, at this particular location, I know I think it's 2.9. Let me just double check that. Yes, 2.9 at Allentown, the location I'm showing you here. So, I mean, all these totals here are very pitifully low, and some are near record lows. I know Allentown is. Allentown's record low was set 3 years ago. It was 5.3 inches. And I only know that because somebody asked me that. Philadelphia had a 0 winter in 72, 73, so you're already above that and you're safe. But there's a couple of these locations in here that are very far below average. So, snowfall. So if you get something, it's going to be out in this territory, somewhere in here. And there are some signals in there that do show some snow. Now, as far as the pattern goes, everybody heard about the sudden stratospheric warming event that was coming or taking place or whatever. This did in fact occur on the 16th of February. So this is a done deal. The stratospheric warming did take place, and there was a complete zonal wind reversal from westerly to easterly winds. And I'll give you a little bit of implication. Here's what that shows, just to give you an idea what that is. So prior to this, here's the point at which we were a couple days ago. The point at which we had a complete wind reversal was right in here on the 16th. Right? Oh, I have the wrong color here. Oh, give me a second. Forget I'm typing over. We'll use yellow. Why not? There we go. So this was all westerly winds, and it had a complete zonal wind reversal right there. That is the 16th. So when the wind reversal occurs, that's when the warming takes place at the 10 millibar level, which is way up in the stratosphere, okay? And then it continues, and this is the projection of the next couple of weeks. It tries to make a comeback, but then a second build-in of the sudden stratospheric warming is going to take place here in later this month, okay? So that will keep the zonal winds easterly at that point. So what does that mean, okay? So, well, if you look at the stratosphere, if you have a very strong vortex over the stratosphere, it means you're going to have a very strong vortex means that you're going to have the cold air consolidated over the polar regions. It can't bleed south. It's milder, very fast specific flow is usually common in that. We've had that in January. When you have a less cold stratosphere, because you have that warming effect, it pushes the cold air away from the polar regions and down into the mid-latitudes where we live. So it allows the cold air from the polar regions to bleed southward, and that can give you colder than usual temperatures. And these patterns can lock in for 30 to 45 days at a time when they become established. But the problem is not all warming episodes couple to the troposphere below and affect the troposphere below the same. Sometimes they don't at all. There are indications that this will, and if it does, when you have a look like this, right, at that 10 millibar level, way up in the atmosphere, if you get down to the 500 millibar level in the troposphere, and to see if this is affecting this at all, it results in blocking. Okay, so here is and I'm going to stop this. This is where we are right now. Okay, so this is the 500 millibar heights, and here you can see your negative PNA. God bless, I got to change this to black again. There we go. Okay, let me get rid of this and try again. Okay, so you have this big negative PNA, which is a big trough in the western United States, and this is what I drew before, and you have a big southeast ridge influence on the eastern side. So that's where we're starting off. Okay, as this couples with the troposphere, or supposedly will do so, blocking will develop over Greenland and Hudson Bay. Okay, so watch what happens over the next couple weeks here. Watch this blocking start taking shape here. This starts off as a Scandinavian ridge and moves over Greenland as that stratospheric warming couples with the troposphere, and you get this look here with all this cold underneath of it because that blocking was set up. So that's the idea. That further we get in time, it usually takes about 2 weeks for this to occur. Just occurred on February 16th, so about 2 weeks or so until it couples to the troposphere, and you can get blocking, which is shown here, and then underneath of it, you have that cold that's forced to the mid-latitudes. That's the general concept of how this works. Is this a guarantee that it's going to work this way? No, but at least the ensembles, both GFS and the European that I'm showing here, are indicating that you're going to have blocking that will set up a colder pattern over much of our area, and it's going to continue in the western United States as well. But this is the tropospheric response to that sudden stratospheric warming, and is something we have to watch over the next couple of weeks. Also, we have to watch the Madden-Julian oscillation propagation. Now, this is a measure of the best convection in the equatorial regions of the globe, 5 degrees north. Okay, and each one of these phases means something different. So this is a mild phase right here. So are all these. These are all warm phases right here that I'm putting the W's on. Okay. These phases are colder in March. Okay. So right now it's in a milder phase. So we're getting milder temperatures this week, right? It's a little bit of a lag there, but then it goes into circle of death. And then this is the GFS extend. It goes all the way through 7 again, and then into phase 8. Okay, so it does eventually get into the cold phases. European ensemble doing the same thing, not quite as the amplitude's not quite as high, but it still does the same thing. It brings it generally into phase 8 as we get into March. So that could sustain cold and give you a different kind of pattern altogether. Okay, and the phase 8 is still a possibility because La Nina is weakening. So we need to get rid of this pattern right here that I showed you here. This is that pattern that we've had for a while, which is this pattern right here. How do you get rid of that pattern? Okay, this is a typical La Nina phase 7 look right here. Okay, we need to get into, and that's this right here. Okay, that's a La Nina phase 7 look. We need to get into phase 8 because phase 8 looks like this. Okay, so if you want some kind of East Coast storm threat with a cold and potential for snow, phase 8 is going to help you. Okay, and can that happen? Yes, because we have seen a steady weakening of the La Nina over the past couple of weeks. Now, I haven't had a video last week to show you that progression, so I didn't do a progression this week, but I do have the numbers. But these areas right here are still borderline ENSO neutral or weak La Nina. They're very borderline in the western regions. In the eastern regions out here, they've warmed significantly. As a matter of fact, off the Peruvian coast, it's like almost El Nino territory, right? Here's what we have here on the chart from this week. And these numbers are going to change a little bit. These Nino 4 and Nino 3.4, which is the western portions of that blob I just showed you, are still kind of like teetering right around ENSO neutral and the weak La Nina threshold. So it's still running the pattern, but in the eastern regions, negative 0.2 Celsius, plus 0.7 Celsius, this is warm, okay, in the eastern portions. You can see that here. So what does that mean? If this continues to weaken, that means we need to go off of what an ENSO neutral is in phase 7 for March, which looks like this, and an ENSO neutral in March in phase 8 looks like this. Now, I'm not using La Nina anymore once we get into March because I don't think you're going to have the effects of La Nina anymore. And what can change that? Stratospheric warming can certainly help. Okay, that'll change things a little bit. But we need to get rid of this pattern here that doesn't allow the Madden-Julian oscillation to get into phase 8. It hasn't all winter because that is not a La Nina characteristic. If it is not a La Nina anymore, we get an ENSO neutral, it has an easier time getting into phase 8, so there's a little bit more believable at that time that this can occur. Now, since this is happening in the beginning of March, or the beginning of the second week of March, this would help late in March. So for a late season, maybe snow event type thing. That's way down the road, and that's assuming this gets into phase 8. We don't know that yet, okay? But we do know on the GFS Extended, has a southeast ridge here that's going to try to fight back here a little bit at times in week 1, keeping it near average of March. And then after that, the cold just settles in, and it stays in for the entire month. Your weekly is doing the same thing, okay? Cold comes in, southeast ridge tries to abate a little bit, but then you go beyond that in the late month, and you're still very cold, below average temperatures here in the second half of March. So it's very easy to look at this and say, well, we're going to have a pretty cold start to spring, and we probably will, okay? And how long does that last? Again, the effects of the sudden stratospheric warming, if it does in fact couple to the troposphere, could last 30 to 45 days, which takes you well into April, okay? Is this something that's going to linger into May? I don't think so. I hope not. I hope not. I hope we're not dealing with 42 degrees and rain on Memorial Day weekend like we did a couple years ago, because that was just brutal. But as far as the part that people care about, which is the snow, I wouldn't hold my hopes on anything saving winter, so to speak. We're so far behind, you're probably not going to be able to save winter over the next 30 days or so, okay? And it could go. You can get snow in April yet, too, but realistically, next 30 days, you're probably not going to get enough snow to save the day. Can you get some snow to help you get out of these bare minimum snowfall amounts you've had so far? Yeah, it's possible. And I certainly think we have some chances. Here's the next weekend on the GFS that ran last night. And you can see this is next Saturday. It has some light snow. It's not a big storm, but it has some rain, snow showers, or whatever. But it is something that you can get out of this, and it all adds up, right? So this is next Saturday, coming in at a time where that gradient is a little bit further south, so it gives you the opportunity for some snow or a mix. And the same thing here for the end of month storm signal. Here's the European model last night, and it's not a big storm, but it has some snow out of this. So at least it has it, and it's in that 28th the first time frame that we have listed in the long range outlooks. Doesn't look as impressive as it did a couple days ago, but we get a long time to look at this yet. Today's only the 19th. We're talking about the February 28th, March 1st time frame. So there's a signal there. Can you get something out of that? Yes. Here's what the ensembles, European ensemble has for accumulated snowfall, and this is a loop over the next couple of weeks, and just watch how this increases as we go through time. Here's getting the end of the month. Here's early March, and this goes all the way through March 5th. Oop, I didn't stop it in time. But it gives you an idea how this just continues to increase on the ensembles with these different systems coming in. And you have the opportunity for some snow, okay? And that goes, some of them show it pretty far south, too. So winter's not over yet, but the biggest takeaway, whether we get this or not, isn't really as important to me as figuring out the temperature patterns and the fact that I really believe we're going to be starting off spring a lot colder than we have been over the past couple of years. We'll watch these systems and cover them in the daily forecast videos and things like that, but can you get a bigger storm in this pattern? Not yet. I don't think so. Not until you get to phase 8. If that does in fact happen, and then you're pushing like mid-March, mid to late March for something to happen in there, and it has happened before. We've had some big storms in March, even right around the first day of spring. So this can happen, but you're not getting any big storms probably early on in the month because we're not in a cooperative MJO phase. Even though it's colder, it can snow, just probably not big storms just yet, okay? So that's what we're going to be looking at for the next couple of weeks. I'll cover those in the daily forecast videos especially for Saturday, since that's going to be within our 7-day forecast window when I do the video for that tonight for Monday. Okay. So in summary, we're watching the next few weeks for a possible sudden stratospheric warming event effects. So the sudden stratospheric warming event did occur on the 16th. Now we're looking for how it couples to the troposphere, if at all. I do think it does, and the ensembles are certainly picking up on that. With the blocking over Greenland, that is an effect of the sudden stratospheric warming. So if that takes place, we can lock in this cold for a while after we've been mild for the last 6 to 8 weeks, right? We get into all of March or most of March and then at least part of April with colder. That means we're going to start off with a cooler than average spring, at least beginning of that. I don't want to speculate beyond that because I stop at 5 to 6 weeks for a reason. Milder temperatures this week ends abruptly as the gradient boundary presses south, and that's going to be toward the end of the week. We're going to have a very warm Thursday. kind of a transition day Friday, then colder Saturday, possible little system there. And we're watching several overrunning wintry chances late month and at least early March. The first of which would be Saturday, and then we have another one like right at the end of the turn of the month here from February to March 28th to the 1st time frame. Might be another one after that, but we'll see. There's going to be some chances in here. They're going to be overrunning precipitation because you have a negative P&A, big trough in the west, so it's not like a big storm threat yet. Until that changes and you get ridging out west, which is something that happens in phase 8 of the MJO, which we're not going to be there for a while yet, if we are even there. That wouldn't be until probably the middle of the month when we have something like that kind of pattern. It helps us a little bit here. So we'll see where we go from here. No promises on the snow part of it. I wouldn't really hang my hats on the snow part and worry about that so much. I'm not, because I'm more worried about the pattern and how this is going to be coupled with the troposphere to establish our pattern in for the majority of the month of March, and then at least part of April. And then at that point, we're going to have to figure out how long it's going to last, right? This could last well into April. Hopefully not, but we'll see where we go from here in the next couple of weeks. I'm EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Marchish. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, February 19th. Join us again next week. I'll give you an update on the coupling of the troposphere, most likely, and see if we have any systems to talk about it at that time. Take care.